You're listening to Mr. Suave at MrSuave.com.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
It's a mod world.
Once the cow's been milked, there's no squirting the cream back up her udder, so here we are to see things through.
Should we drink before the meeting or after? Or both?
Swinging, smart, satisfying sounds, sharp and syncopated.
Sparkling, smooth, stimulating sounds, chic, sophisticated, hallmark of quality, Britain radio, wonderful music.
Hey, kids, welcome to the Modcast. Man, have I got a freaking great show for you this time around. I've got a surprise special guest who will be joining us in just a moment. First, though, I started things out there with sort of a screwball, but everything from here on in is just going to be fastball after fastball, grooved right over the heart of the plate, all thanks to our aforementioned special guest pitcher. But that screwball at the beginning of the show, that there was a fantastic bit of Northern Soul from Motown producer and American soul man Frank Wilson. It's a bit of a rarity in that the original recordings, circa 1965, I think, they were destroyed and only a handful of 45s survived, and eventually became highly sought-after collector's items, as you can imagine. And so, the track became a popular one at Wigan Casino, and so much so was eventually released again by Motown in 1979 and has gone on to become even more popular since then. So for this particular show, you'll understand why once we get going here in a moment, it seemed only right to start with some Northern Soul and something that, in its physical capacity at least, is rather rare. Since that's what our guest is going to be serving up to you throughout. Without further ado, okay, I've got a little ado here, a man who needs no introduction, but he's got a great one. We're going to use it anyhow.
said. Is everybody feeling all right tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, cool cats of all ages, please welcome to the turntables all the way from the bustling metropolis of Montreal, Canada. He's the master of the wheels of steel, the sultan of the 7-inch, the visor of vinyl, the wizard of hot wax, the funky soul phenomenon. Please give it up for DJ Parka Pat! Everybody, get up onto your feet. Get ready to move. Prepare yourself to groove to the sound of hip, shaking, soul, gritty R&B, daddy old funk, sultry Latin, boogaloo, foot stomping garage, and the dynamic vibe of the go-go sound, baby. Are you ready to get down?
Big welcome and thank you to my special guest today, DJ Parka Pat. Thanks for being here.
Bonjour, Monsieur Suave. Ça va bien?
Yes. It is so great to have you on the show so that we could talk about some music and some other mod-related things, and I really appreciate your being here.
Well, the honor is all mine. I mean, you've been an inspiration to me. I consider you one of the OGs of modcasting, and you've actually inspired me to do my own podcast. So the honor is all mine.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's always nice if you find out that people are inspired by what you're doing, because that's what I want to do, is inspire people to find good music, do their own shows like you are, and help further the cause, so to speak, in the mod sense.
And here's another nod to you, and I'm happy we get to see each other through the magic of Zoom. So I'm going to show you exactly what I have in my hand, and here you go. I prepared.
Looks so nice,
and it's a Vesper
Martini.
For you martini connoisseurs. So let me have a little sip in your honor. Wow. And I use some local Quebec gin.
Nice.
It's called the Piguet Henricus gin.
Very nice.
So I knew you would appreciate that.
I'm jealous because it's still a little early here in Seattle where I am. You're about 3 hours ahead of me. So you've got a little jump on me for the martini today.
I think I'm allowed early afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first half of happy hour, I think, right?
If you say so. You're the expert.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, as they say, right?
Right.
So in our worldwide communications, it's easy to say that you are in happy hour sometime somewhere. I should have been more prepared with my own martini, but it would have just wasted my day if I start this early.
I totally understand.
Well, I'm glad you are here today. We've got some great music to talk about coming up. You have brought some songs to share with us, which we will get to. And one of the things that I find it an honor to have you is because I know you are a real serious record collector. You have a really great collection, and I've listened to your podcast where you talk about the albums and things. It's always amazing how much stuff you have, how much stuff you find, and the special time and effort you put into it, which I think is really fantastic, and then to share that with everyone.
Well, as a mod DJ, you probably know that whenever you're invited to DJ live, it's not about the technique like a rap DJ would be. It's all about your reputation is based on your record collection.
Yeah,
and that makes the whole difference. So it's almost a lifetime of accumulating 45s, and this is exactly what the podcast is all about. Plug to Addicted to the Needle, the podcast where a vinyl addict meets his dealer.
Yeah, I love that.
so the whole concept behind that is that my best friend Ben Schulman, he's a record picker, and we had been meeting for about almost a decade, and he'd come over, we'd sit in the basement, he'd play some 45s for me, I'd buy some, we'd remake the world and talk about our lives. And one day, and he's such a connoisseur, he's I call him the Rain Man of soul music.
Wow.
And he can pick up a 45, look at it, and he goes, "Oh, that font! Just by looking at that font, I know this has been pressed in Chicago." Or he'll say, "Oh, yeah, the producer on this record had the session on a Tuesday, and they had pastrami on rye that day." No, baloney. So one day I just told him, "Listen, Ben, why don't we just put 2 microphones in front of our faces, do exactly what we've been doing for a decade now, and just press record?" So that was the genesis of our little podcast.
That is great.
So yeah, right. Thanks to him mainly, I've accumulated a pretty decent record collection.
So it's all his fault.
Well, I've paid probably the garage on his house.
Yeah, that's a lot of records. So you said it's a lifetime collection. When did your lifetime of collecting start? How did you get started with records?
Well, probably when I was a teenager, like most of us. With something like Quadrophenia was probably one of my all-time favorite albums. Mm-hmm. And that's what got me into the mod culture back in Toronto. A lonely French Canadian Quebecois, and the only French-speaking public high school in Toronto. And also the Specials album, which we've all looked every inch of it to emulate the style. And I was a two-tone era mod also. And that's how it started. So it was mostly albums back then, but my 45 collection started just maybe over a decade ago. That's when I, concentrated mainly on rare 45, rare 45s, 60s mainly.
Yeah. And how far afield do you go when you're looking for records?
Well, internet is an endless, bottomless pit of records. I rely a lot on my picker, on Ben, and but every time I go guest DJing anywhere, you'll find me in a junk shop, a flea market.
Yeah,
there's no ends to where you'll find some stuff, and I'm not just a record collector. I'm a '60s guy, so I see we have something in common. I see right behind you some tiki mugs. Yeah. And if I move a bit, you'll see there's some right behind me too.
Right behind you, yeah. That's funny. Mods share a lot of eclectic tastes, and they all tend to meld together after a while as the years go on. I remember reading on your is the Parka Avenue blog, because you would post pictures sometimes of like when you were in Detroit or somewhere, and going to record stores and looking for vinyl. So I figured probably everywhere you go, you have a sixth sense, of where to find a secondhand shop that might have some vinyl in it or some 45s, and you're always looking, right?
Well, on a trip, there's two things you can bring back pretty easily. 45s, they don't take too much space, and clothes. Yeah, it's easy to go through customs with clothes, especially if it's vintage clothes. So us mods, records and clothes, we can't bring back scooter parts, but records and clothes, they'll usually come back.
Right. What was the first record that you bought or listened to, or what was it that kind of turned you on to records originally?
I'm an early convert. I think the first record I bought, I was in fourth grade with my own money. And I'm not too proud to say, so it's a well kept secret. But it was the Kiss Dynasty album. You know, the one with the four faces.
Yeah.
And early on, I was a Kiss Army brat, but luckily I moved on to better and more sophisticated things. But I'd say my first 10 albums were probably all Kiss albums.
Wow. You really were part of the Kiss Army.
I think so.
But you were of an age, that's what everybody was listening to at the
Right.
time. Everybody had that. I had Kiss albums as a kid. And, it was just one of those things that you sort of go along with as you're getting started. And then eventually, like you said, your taste got more sophisticated, thankfully.
Well, the first record I was given, it was by my godfather, and that was pretty good. And that probably would, put a little seed in me. It was the first B-52s album.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So he had great taste.
My brother handed down records to me, and he's much older than I am. So his era really was kind of the 60s, and he instilled in me a lot of my early love for 60s music with British invasion artists mostly, but the Beatles and the Stones, of course, and all of that, and lots of soul music from that era as well. And he was a huge fan of the Moody Blues and got me turned on to that. The first album that I remember he gave me, though, was Rush 2112.
Hey, shout out to Canada.
Yeah, and it was, I loved that album as a kid. And then I can remember the first album I bought with my own money was The Monkees. And
Well, that's much better than Kiss.
I'm not sure why I chose the Monkees, but I did. And I can remember one of the very first albums I bought when I originally considered myself a mod. I'm like, okay, this is me. This is who I am. And I bought Sergio Mendes Brazil 66 because they were wearing those cool suits,
I love that. I love that song. I recently got I think it's a European version we played on the podcast. Ben fished out for me.
Wow.
And that's not. It's really big. I heard it's really big in Europe, not as much in North America, because apparently every time they play a football match or soccer back here, they introduce the Brazilian team. That's one of the songs they play.
Really?
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah,
I actually DJ it pretty often.
Yeah, all of that 60s bossa nova music, I started getting into that, led me into jazz more and stuff. And I've always appreciated the fact that mods, and this is always a good question, right? Is mod really a musical style, or is it a lifestyle? And then you like lots of music that just sort of fits in that.
Yeah, it's the chicken and the egg thing.
Right.
But for me, mod is we're curators of anything cool.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, we talk about our tiki mugs. They're not mod per se.
Right.
They're just cool. And that's why you have a lot of mods that are also into the tiki scene. It's just damn cool. There's no other reason behind it.
Right. And I've talked about this with various people on the Modcast before about how young mods, when we were getting into it, we're of an age, it was the mod revival era and, late 70s, early 80s type things, two-tone, like you mentioned, the Specials and Madness, and a lot of the bands that weren't really mod bands, but they had a sound that was mod friendly for sure. And we all had that. And then it's always interesting to me that over time, all of the kids of that era sort of grew up and then got into cocktail music and lounge music kind of at the same time, which got into exotica and tiki music and so on. And it was just this sort of interesting progression that everybody kind of had. In fact, I did a show about Jerry Dammers, with a friend of mine because she and I were listening to some Jerry Dammer's early stuff, and he was into lounge music for sure. He liked like elevator music specifically. He had collections of elevator music, and so I credit him with, you know, probably starting that craze a little bit, because if you listen to that second Specials album, More Specials, with International Jet Set, and some of those songs are very loungy.
That's a rabbit hole you can fall into
I know.
easily into, and you can specialize and specialize. Lately, I've been into collecting very Moog space age music.
Oh, cool.
To find a really good one, because you get your tons of cheesy, but to get some really good, space agey go-go music, it's not easy to find on 45. Yeah, that's I usually reserve a set of space age instrumentals, usually early in the in my sets when I do a DJ night, and
Right.
I love that stuff.
Getting people wound up early on with that. Yeah. One of the interesting things, the Moog synthesizer, I think, I remember reading that one of the first, if not maybe the first, Moog synthesizer used in a rock recording was by the Monkees on Star Collector. And if it wasn't the very first, it was certainly one of, which is kind of interesting because, there's that whole story and debate about the Monkees. Were they real musicians? Of course they were, even though session guys were used, on the early recordings. But those guys were really, they did some great music of their own and were really talented musicians. And in the mainstream, they never get the credit they deserve. But I think that mods and music lovers recognize that and appreciate it. So
totally agree. Yeah. And we were kind of lucky here in Montreal to have the most successful international world exposition here in 1967, the Montreal Expo in 1967. And that's sort of a golden age for that type of music. So there's a few records here that there's a Pierre Henry style of Moog music, and we have a couple of records that came out here during Expo 67.
Wow.
There's one that plays during a film board, Canada Film Board Expo 67 promotional clip you can find on YouTube. And I was listening. I used that clip during a DJ night I do, the Mod Club, that's been going on here for more than a decade. And I show clips, and I showed this clip, and I was DJing with a friend, and I told them, "Oh, I wish I knew the track they used, this really space age track they used in that clip." He said, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean. It sounds great." And then the next record he played was that track. So I finally got
let me roll that out for you.
And the track is called La Marche des Martiens, which is the March of the Martians. So you can just imagine how cool it sounds. So we were lucky in Montreal to have the architecture, the cultural aspect behind the Expo 67, the exposure, the bands. I'm always thinking of if you go on YouTube and you see the clip for Ain't No Mountain High Enough, if you watch the clip, the duo singing the song, the Motown classic, it's filmed at Expo 67.
Wow, that's cool.
You can hardly tell, but they're beside a phone booth. And you can recognize that the phone booth was on the Expo 67 site. So we were cool. pretty big in 67. So that brought us some great cultural exposure.
Well, you have brought some great cultural exposure with you for this show. You have brought 6 tracks that we're going to go through, and I'll let you set them up, and especially these first ones, talk about pronouncing them properly. It's not my forte.
So we had a little back and forth before we decided to do the show, and I suggested a few themes for you, and we finally decided to go with an all covers show.
Yeah,
and so we're going to hear 6 covers, and the first set of 2 tracks are from La Belle Province, which is the beautiful province of Quebec.
Wow.
And they're French. Well, actually, the second one, is not from Quebec, but the first one is. So you want me to introduce them right now? Or
let's jump into the music, and then we'll talk about them when we come back in just a minute.
Let's hear it.
Je criais ma douleur aujourd'hui, vous seriez peur de mon cri. J'ai tout détruit comme plaisir, et ça fait mal, je peux vous le dire. Toujours, mais ça fait bien trop mal, c'est un amour qui me fait bien trop mal, toujours, mais ça fait bien trop mal, celui qui aime, s'ils me comprennent, tout ce que j'endure. Mes jours et mes nuits, et si le jour je ne tiens pas debout, la nuit je pleure, je tombe à genoux. Mal, c'est un amour qui me fait bien trop mal, on peut toujours, mais ça fait bien trop mal, c'est un amour qui me fait bien trop mal, on peut toujours, mais ça fait bien trop mal, celui qui aime, ici me comprenne, ce que j'endure.
Amour de ma vie. Il est marié, c'est bien le seul ennui, mais il jure de divorcer. C'est terrible, non? Oh yeah. Vous verrez. Il a juré. Avec lui la vie sera un paradis. Pas besoin de travailler. De son vieux grand-père il va tout hériter. Enfin c'est ce qu'il m'a dit. C'est terrible, non? Pourquoi
right, welcome back to the Modcast. Man, those are great tracks. Thank you for sharing them.
Did you know them?
I did. I recognized the music instantly, and it's funny because I don't speak French, and my French is really. I don't attempt to try and sound out words or anything, but listening to it, it sounded so cool hearing those songs in French, for me at least.
Well, the last one we heard was Les Dins, Ça ne tient pas debout, which was recorded in 1966 and came out on the French label Riviera. Of course, everybody recognized a mod anthem,
Yes.
which was important for me to present to your listeners. I had to have a mod anthem in there. And so obviously it was the Small Faces doing What You Gonna Do About It. That came out the previous year in 1965. And here's an interesting fact. There are four sisters, four African-American sisters singing in French.
Yeah.
And they're from a small town in Illinois. I can't even tell you the town. That's how much information we have about this group. This is a really obscure, rare record. It came out in France and in Canada, mainly in Quebec. And there's a picture sleeve, and that's how I know they're African American, because they're four black sisters, and you can tell from the back of the picture sleeve. The only information I know about them, they came from Illinois, and they're from a gospel family, so that's how they learned how to sing. How did they come up with the Small Faces to cover?
Right.
I have no idea. But that 45 is dear to me because it was actually a gift from a fellow mod here in Quebec, Michel Alario, which is he's a big time 60s collector, and
Nice.
he gave it to me, which is I was dumbfounded that he'd give me such a rare record. But yeah, it's very dear to my heart, and who doesn't love French Small Faces?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that was a popular song, and it's sort of surprising that they would have recorded it, but at the same time, it's not that surprising. I mean, you can hear it. It's just fantastic
They
version
actually,
of it.
I think one of the sisters moved to Paris to study, I think, and she brought her three other sisters, and they recorded in Paris. So
wow. So they had a producer who probably was keyed into the current hits of the day and said, you guys should do this Small Faces song, and
for obvious reasons, they came out with the 45 here in Quebec also. So to please the, the Quebecois contingent.
Yeah, nice. And right before that was another song that people will have recognized instantly from the music. And that was the version of Hush.
From Deep Purple from 1968. So this came out on Action Records here in Quebec. Jenny Rock, and the title is called Mal. And Mal, rough translation would probably be wrong. For some reason.
Not Hush.
No, it's not Hush. And there's certain covers for me that I actually appreciate more as a cover than the original. And this is the perfect example. And Jenny Rock was sort of a big thing in Quebec in the 60s. And I really had to, think hard of which track I was going to play by Jenny Rock, because she came out with a bunch of covers. She did Walking the Dog.
Wow.
She did the Sloopy. And the other track I really love about her is she does a Rufus Thomas cover of Le Train pour Memphis. And it's such a good track. But I went with Mal. It's usually the most popular of the two on the mod scene, and it's a really looked after 45, and that's one I found in record picking. I didn't buy it off the internet, and so I'm pretty proud of that one.
It is a a fairly much covered song, I suppose. In fact, the Deep Purple is a cover. They weren't the original recording. It was done by a guy like in 1966, maybe, or the year before Deep Purple did it. And it's a very generic sounding sort of soul song. And I can't remember his name. It's Billy something, I think. But Deep Purple took it and turned it on its head, really, sort of, and made it super popular. And then I've always liked the version from the mid 90s, kind of the Britpop version by Kula Shaker. And it's cool. But that is, I guess that's what they call a banger, right?
Well, it's big in the mod psych,
right.
Circles, and it's that scream at the beginning of the track that gets to you right. It hooks you in right at the
immediately.
beginning.
Yeah,
and I sort of specialize in that stuff. The cover, the French Canadian covers, and I love to go DJ. I'm usually invited to go DJ in the States, especially on the East Coast, New York, Washington, Baltimore, Boston. And I love putting on a record that everybody knows. And then everybody it turns around and looks at me and go, what? It's in French. I have a really rare cover of Jimi Hendrix doing Purple Haze by a Quebec group. It's called Vapeur Mauve by The Haunted. You probably know The Haunted. Their big hit was 125, but they have a very, very obscure, cover of Purple Haze. And I've seen people go, "Oh right, Purple Haze," and it sounds just the same, but it's sung in French, and people go, They turn around and they immediately rush to the DJ booth. Who the hell is this? And I'm so satisfied. You see a grin on my face every time this happens. I love doing this. So covers are sort of my thing.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I mean, who doesn't like a good cover? I could do all covers all the time, and I have to be careful not to play too many covers because, they're great. I love them too. And the familiarity of the song. And then if you have something like that where suddenly it's in French, or if there's some other twist to it, where somebody turns a known song into their own thing.
Oh, that's the best. That's what I look for all the time.
Sure.
I recently bought a unknown cover of "I Feel Fine" by the Beatles, and I was debating playing it for you, but it's not even on YouTube. It's nowhere to be found, and it takes you about half the song to finally realize, oh, wait, that's "I Feel Fine" by the Beatles, and amazing. I love that. I love when it takes the ear of the connoisseur to go, oh, okay, oh, that's the Beatles.
Yeah. So when you use that when you're DJing, you can see people suddenly the light go on, and they go, oh! And that must be really satisfying.
Well, the thing about mod DJs is we like rarities. We like the obscure. It's our little a stuck up mod thing that we try to we feel sophisticated because we know things that the common man doesn't know, and we all have to admit it. We're snobbish that way.
Yeah,
that's why I like to play covers, because everybody knows it, but you'll also play for the the other DJ that is spinning with you that goes, oh, wait a second, I don't have that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it surprises the dance floor and everybody knows it. You can play your rarest $1,000 Northern Soul record that nobody knows, and it's going to clear the dance floor. But you play those covers and everybody knows it, and it's something new at the same time. So, it's not the same old version you've heard thousands and thousands of times, and it keeps it fresh. So that's why I like to look for those types of records.
I've always enjoyed like the lounge cocktail versions of hit songs.
Oh yeah.
at the instrumentals mostly, and it drives my wife nuts. She's not she wants to hear the original, but I love, some of them are kind of cheesy, but when you realize what that song is and that you recognize it, and it's just got this different vibe to it, it's great. And I like, I can appreciate a really good tribute where they do the spot on cover, and you can tell they appreciate the original artist, the musicianship, the composing, and all of that. And so they do just a fantastic recreation of the original. Mm-hmm. And that's nice, but yeah, it's the twist where they give it their own.
Oh, we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
And I have one of my good friends here. He's a commercial radio DJ on the biggest rock station here in the province of Quebec, Randy Renault. He's on Chaume FM. And he comes over to my nights every once in a while. I've had him guest DJ. And I always play the Quebec versions of the Beatles. It drives him nuts because, for obvious reasons, you can't beat the Beatles, but if you think about it, the Beatles did covers themselves. So
yeah,
why not play a French cover of a Beatles song? But I know every time he rolls his eyes, and you can't mess with the classics sometimes.
Well, we've got two classics coming up next that you're going to mess with, or that you brought that people messed with already, I guess, right? So what are we going to hear?
So I was debating going with the Beatles. I had to cut it to 6 tracks, but we're going to go with another big name. So we're going to have a cover from Elvis doing the classic Heartbreak Hotel. And I guess this next set of 2 songs are probably the most mod set of them all. Well, it's hard to beat, Small Faces.
Right.
But Barbara Trent does a great cover of Heartbreak Hotel, and it's mod as F. And the following one is Damita Joe, who does a great cover of Tossin' and Turnin'.
Yeah,
the classic Bobby Lewis. And about Barbara Trent, what's interesting is that track came out in 1970. Wow. So like almost 15 years after the release of the original Heartbreak Hotel. So let me know what you think.
All right, let's listen.
If your baby leaves you want a new place to dwell, just take a walk down on the street to Heartbreak Hotel, yeah. You be so lonely, baby, yeah, you get
now that I've met you. I couldn't sleep at all last night, just thinking of you. Baby, things went right. Oh, I was tossing and turning, turning and tossing, tossing and turning all night. I kicked the blankets on the floor, turned my pillow upside down. I never did this before, 'cause I was tossing and turning, turning and tossing, tossing and turning all night. Jumped out of bed, turned on the light. I pulled the shades down, went to the kitchen for a bite. Pulled up the shade, turned off the light. I jumped back into bed, it was the middle of the night. The clock downstairs was striking 4. Couldn't get you off my mind. I heard the milkman at the door. Oh, I was tossing and turning, turning and tossing, tossing and turning all night. Jumped out of bed, turned on the light. I pulled the shades down, I went to the kitchen for a bite. Pulled up the shades, turned off the light. I jumped back into bed, it was the middle of the night, yeah. The clock downstairs was striking 4. Couldn't get you off my mind. I heard the milkman at the door. 'Cause I was tossing and turning, yeah, turning and tossing, oh, tossing and turning, oh, yeah, 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 tossing and turning, oh, I was turning and tossing, and turning, oh.
Okay, those were two classic tracks. They were fantastic covers, and I don't know either of the artists, actually. I was not familiar with either of them. That last song was Tossin' and Turnin', which is, I think, from the late 50s originally, or thereabouts.
1961. The Bobby
okay.
Lewis version is from 1961. This one came out on a very obscure label called Red Label in 1960. Tossin' and Turnin' was on Epic in 1966. Damita Joe Dublanc, her full name, very French, or de Blanc, like you Americans like to pronounce it. We don't pronounce the C in French, by the way. So Dublanc is a Austin, Texas native.
Wow.
And she's an African-American singer. And I mean, for me, this is what mod music sound like. This is totally mod for me.
Yeah.
And I chose that version instead of the 1978 cover by Peter Criss. We talked about this before.
Peter Criss, that must be a real win. Oh, man.
Yeah, on his solo album, he did a cover of that song. So you'll have to trust me on that. I think the Damita Joe version is better.
I'm sure it is. I do remember a version by the Supremes from the early 70s, I think, after Diana Ross left. So, which was okay, but not as cool as this one. You're right. It's a very mod rendition of Tossin' and Turnin', which you don't, I mean, there's that twist again, right? It's not a song that you think somebody's going to turn into really a mod dancer, but they did, just like the one before it too.
Yeah, that was Barbara Trent. That's on the Red Label, very small label. I think only 6 singles came out on that label. And Barbara Trent did 2, I think, out of the 6. And herself, she didn't have a very productive recording career. I think she came out with 5 singles. And that was the third of 5, if I believe so.
Heartbreak Hotel, which when we were talking, going back and forth before the show, I voted for this one, so to speak, because that was one of my favorite songs by Elvis. I'm not a huge Elvis aficionado, but you know his hit songs and things, and I always liked that, and I've always liked hearing good covers of it. There was a garage rock cover of it in the 80s by, I think, the legendary Golden Vampires, which was kind of obscure European garage band that was really cool too. But this, I mean, again, kind of turns it on its head and makes it
Well,
even better.
I love sticking it to rockers, coming out with like a rocker classic and coming up with a better mod version of
Yes.
it. I just love that, and I think that does the trick.
Yeah, those are great. And finding the kind of things like that, these are the albums when you collect. This is what you're looking for. How long have these been in your collection? Are these new finds, recent finds, or you had these for a while?
That Heartbreak Hotel I've had for a while. It's not something you come by easily. It's
No.
not necessarily something I'll find digging, but it'll pop up every once in a while on eBay or Discogs. And when there's something I really want, you better move aside because I'm gonna put my hands on it. And I gave you a choice between that one and another version, another Elvis track. What was it? All Shook Up. And the reason why I picked that one was it starts with heavy fuzz on it. So imagine, Elvis cover with fuzz guitar.
All fuzzed out. Yeah, it was good too. But this one, because Heartbreak Hotel, I just thought it was pretty good.
And as much as Elvis is a rocker icon, you'd be surprised at how much I feel there's a few tracks by Elvis that are totally mod. And one of my favorite, tracks from Elvis is one that is considered like a Northern Soul classic. And it's called Rubbernickin'.
Oh, yes.
It's from one of his movies, and it has some great hand clapping on it. That I DJ all the time. And it's very Northern Soul sounding. Cool. So you never picture, Elvis being a mod icon, and he does some great R&B also. But he's there. He's not only for rockabillys.
Yeah, right. Not just for rockabillys anymore. All right. So we've got two more coming up that are probably the most rare out of these tracks. One of them for sure is really rare, I'm guessing.
Yes, because I had to record it myself and send you the link because it's nowhere to be found on. You can find it on YouTube. You can Google it as much as you want. You won't find it. And I had to give your listeners something exclusive. I mean, They deserve this. I mean, so you want me to talk about it right now, or
let's listen to these two tracks and then we'll come back and you can tell us all about them.
Sure.
All right. I don't think people will have any trouble recognizing the first one that we're going to play here in just a second. So
a classic.
It is a classic.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. Well, it's cold outside. I've got the month of May. Well, I guess you say what can make me now feel this way. It's my girl. I'm talking about my girl. My girl. I got so much honey, but the endless May. I got a sweeter song to sing than the birds in the tree. Well, I guess you say what can make me now feel this way. It's my girl. I'm talking about my girl. My girl. I don't need no money, fortune or fame. I got all the riches, baby, any one man can claim. I guess you say what can make me now feel this way. It's my girl. Talking about talking about my girl. M.I.C. See you real soon. K.E.Y. Why? 'Cause you're a groove. M.O.U.S.E. 1, 2, 3, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. You know it feels kinda good just to talk about it, baby. Mickey Mouse. M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. Now Mickey Mouse, he lives out in Disneyland. He teams with Donald Duck and the rest of the clan. You ought to see him boogaloo throughout the night. Back up into the James Brown, feeling right. M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. Let's give it to him one time, Paul. M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. He's got big funny ears and a long black nose. He does a funky Broadway, just look at him go. He's known the world around to be a TV star. Something like the Monkees, and look where they are. M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. He's Mickey Mouse. He's Mickey Mouse. No, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. He's Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. I know who I'm talking about. M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. I'll tell you one more time in case you don't know. He's Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. No, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. I said M-I-C-K-E-Y, M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. Well, yeah, all right.
Welcome back to the Modcast with my guest today, DJ Parka Pat, who has been regaling us with stories of record collecting, especially his favorites and some of mine too, cover versions. And that last song we just heard, One Fine Mice. And you were saying that's pretty rare, and I'm guessing it really is. And it's like, wow, it blows your mind when you realize what it is.
Well, we were talking about surprising people on the dance floor.
Yeah.
This usually will get you looks and go, oh. and the other fun part about it is that people will sing along too.
Yeah.
Because they know it.
Right.
Especially our generation.
Yeah.
Because it's the very famous Mickey Mouse Club theme from early 60s, I think in 1961 or so, the original.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I love about this song is that he talks about Mickey Mouse doing the Boogaloo, doing the James Brown, and doing the funky Broadway, all those iconic, dance craze from the 60s. And, he's palling around with his friends, Donald Duck and Goofy. And it's just a happy, funny song.
Right.
It's sort of a risk when you DJ it. I remember debuting it at the New York Soul Train, and there's a dance competition that they do at that night so you have a dance floor packed with people, and they try to outdo themselves and win a prize at the end. I think they give $100. It's Jonathan Tubin's night, a very famous night. He does it all around the States and Canada. And I was a guest DJ when he came to Montreal. And I played this for the first time, and I remember him looking at me, what the hell is this? But everybody was dancing along. And it's a staple in my DJ box. I rarely leave without it. And the reason probably it's not on YouTube or on the net, it's actually the B-side to a very decent psych garage track called Next Exit. Yeah, it's Jim Jones and the Chanties. And that came out on Sunglow in 1967.
Well, I was wondering if maybe it's not online because Disney sues people or something but he changes it enough that, he's not infringing on any sort of Disney copyright, I suppose. But
probably that's the reason why they changed the title too. One Fine Mice doesn't raise flags. But we'll see. After the airing of the show, I'll put it up on my YouTube channel, so you can hear it again.
Yeah. And then right before that was another great cover, Prince Buster.
Well, what mod doesn't like ska, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a mod thing, blue beat, ska, rocksteady, and you can tell also with Prince Buster to go around probably the infringement laws.
Right.
Didn't put it out as My Girl, but the title of the song is Sunshine with My Girl.
Yeah.
And it came out 2 years after the Temptations did it in 1964. So it came out in 1966. And just like most Jamaican 45s, you've got plenty of records that have blank labels and they're handwritten.
Wow.
And this is the case. So for all you record nerds out there, Prince Buster had his record label, but sometimes 45s just came out on blank white handwritten 45. So that's sort of a rare, and I'm glad my wife is not around, rather expensive 45. But I think it's worth every penny because, a ska version of My Girl.
Right. It's fantastic.
How can you go wrong?
No, you can't. And I bet that pretty much fills the floor whenever you play it.
Again, because everybody recognizes it. And, ska is infectious. So you try to stay, immobile and not moving during that whole song. It's practically impossible.
Yeah, it is. All of these are all great dance songs. And the recognizability of it is part of it, but also just the cool factor, like you were saying before. You're a curator of cool, and your records are pretty damn cool. So,
that's high praise coming from you, Mr. Suave.
Well, you deserve it. It sounds like you've got a fantastic collection, and someday when we get past all of these pandemics and COVID lockdowns and quarantines and so on, if you make it to Seattle, we'll have to have a martini, and maybe you will DJ a night out here sometime.
Last time I was in Seattle was in '97 when I did my cross Canada trip on a GP200, a Lambretta GP200. My idea was to go from Montreal to Vancouver. And I actually went around the Great Lakes, south of the Great Lakes, through Buffalo, Detroit, Chicago. I even went to Grand Rapids. And I crossed back into Canada just north of Fargo. And one of the reasons I really wanted to go to Fargo was not because of the movie, because it was out back then. It was because I heard that Elvis was still alive and he was the managers of the Burger King in Fargo. So I actually have a photo, standing in front of the Burger King in Fargo on my GP200.
That's funny.
Having a Elvis pose. And came back through Winnipeg and then went straight to Vancouver on my Lambretta. I was accompanied by a friend of mine. I was on a Vespa who was from Vancouver. And my engine blew up after going through the Rockies. That didn't help.
Yeah.
And it was about 400 kilometers from Vancouver. I don't know how much miles that is. It's about 5-6 hours of scootering.
Right.
But I actually drove into Vancouver in the back of a pickup, sitting between a Vespa and a Lambretta.
Yeah.
And I was quite disappointed because my idea was to leave from Vancouver and go down the West Coast. As an elementary school teacher, I have the whole summer off, so that was like, my summer was planned out to do that scooter trip, and so I had a non-functioning seized Lambretta on my hands. So what I did is I took a bus. Well, actually, I took the ferry to Vancouver Island and then to Seattle. So I was in Seattle in 97. And then I took a bus all the way down to LA from Seattle. There was a company back then called the Green Tortoise.
Yes, they're still here. Yeah.
They're still there. Oh, yeah. That was great. Except I was a mod, surrounded by hippies.
Right. That was kind of like a crash pad on wheels, right?
Yeah, and I, between San Francisco and LA, I was the owner was the bus driver, and he looked like a Native American big guy, and all we heard during the whole trip was some Grateful Dead. I wanted to, shoot myself in the head, but it was a great experience. So that all, I got to visit Seattle Sounds scooter, but so it's been a while. So I need to get back to the West Coast post-haste.
So as far as you did make it almost to Vancouver, how long were you scootering at the beginning when it was still running?
So it was 15 days and only one day without riding. So I spent a day in Chicago for obvious reasons, went around the city and visited, but the rest of the other 14 days were straight riding all day.
Wow. How many days into the trip were you when you said, why in the world did I do this?
Well, the whole reason for that trip was it was a practice run. I wanted to do Montreal, Tierra del Fuego, Argentina.
Whoa.
On a scooter. It was done before. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because I wanted to have a sense of how grandiose, the planet is. I didn't want to take an airplane. I wanted to have, pass every mile.
Yeah.
And since the test drive was a bust, I had to give up my dream of going, because Tierra del Fuego, Argentina, is considered the end of the world. Back when the explorers, it was considered the place where you go off the
edge.
The edge, or for flat earthers, I guess.
Yeah,
that's still possible. So I had to give up on that dream, and in 2003, instead, I did a cross the world trip, but everything except scooters. So I went and did Asia and Australia for a year.
Wow.
And
you were well traveled.
I didn't bring back any records from my travels in China and Vietnam and Australia, but plenty of stories, non-mod related stories about that trip. But the Cross Canada trip was a test run, and it took me more than a decade to get another scooter after that. I was so bummed out, but I made up for lost time, because now I have 3 and I don't know where to put them.
Yeah. What kind of scooters do you have?
So I have a 59 V&B Vespa, and that's the modded out scooter, all the mirrors, all the spotlights. And I think the scooter is worth more in accessories than the actual scooter. Because if you have, period accessories on a scooter, a mod scooter, it's usually more than the scooter is worth. And I have a 65 TV 175 or Lambretta, which I consider the ultimate mod scooter. I actually wrote a post about that on my blog. What is the ultimate mod scooter? And it was a toss-up with the Lambretta TV 175 and the Vespa GS. Mm-hmm. And obviously I went for my scooter.
Right.
And the last one of the collection is a 1975 Jet 200 Lambretta, a Cerveda, which was a Lambretta made in Spain. What's interesting about that ochre, it's the nice ochre colored Lambretta, is that when I bought it, it had only 700 original miles on it.
Wow.
And it just has less than 900 now. And it's all original paint. Still has the breaking in sticker in the leg shield to break in the
Wow.
engine. So that's a time
That's
capsule.
cool. Yeah.
So, mods have expensive tastes between the clothes, the rare records, and the
scooters.
and
yes.
the scooters. There's not much left in the
Yeah.
bank account at the end.
I had my scooter, my favorite scooter. I had 2 or 3, but my first was my favorite by far, and I owned it for a number of years. I bought it as a senior in high school with my own money, right? It was a big deal. I was a mod. I was going to finally get a scooter, and I bought it from a little old man who had only had like 1,100 miles on it. It was a 79 P200. And so this was in 1984. Yeah, 1984. And I did not know how to ride a scooter when I bought it. It took me hours to get home, and he only lived like 6 miles from where I lived. But I was, stalling and learning how to use the clutch and all of that. But man, there is something about scooters that are just fun to ride and cool to look at. And
yeah, it's usually the Lambretta owners that push their scooters all the way home. Especially the P200. The P200 is a workhorse of all scooters.
And you could keep it running with like a paper clip, and a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. It didn't take much. And I'm not a mechanically minded person really.
Because we're mods.
Even I could keep it running most of the time. But yeah, so I've got a couple of questions for you as we kind of get ready to wrap this up. I'm curious to know what would surprise listeners to your podcast, Addicted to the Needle. I'll put a link to that at the Modcast homepage at mrsuave.com. But what would surprise your listeners that they found out you listen to? What's a guilty pleasure when it comes to music?
Well, I don't listen to Kiss anymore. We can put that aside. Hey, you're throwing me for a loop here. A guilty pleasure. Well, we've talked about the space age music. Okay, I really like. Well, here's something. I took about for 5 or 6 years at least Latin dance lessons.
Oh wow!
So I learned to dance salsa, merengue, bachata. So I always play a Latin boogaloo set during my mod club night. I love that stuff. And people really appreciate it. I mean, Latin stuff, what's not to love? It's very danceable. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have taken the basic lessons, they know, the basic steps. So yeah, I that's another thing. Sometimes I surprise people, especially with my wife that comes and hangs around the DJ night, and I've put on a boogaloo record, and I just grab her hand and hit the dance floor while the record is spinning, and she's spinning, 45 revolutions per minute, and everybody turns around and go, "What? Oh, he's a dancer too." So yeah, that might surprise people. That I took salsa and merengue lessons.
Well, that's cool. The last thing is I'm going to throw you a sort of little curveballs, but I'd like to do this either or game with people when they are guests on the Modcast. So I will give you 2 options and you just tell me which one you prefer. It's really easy. So like Beatles or Stones.
So it's a lightning round. Okay.
Kind of.
Is that the first question?
Sure.
So as of today, I'd say Stones. It changes every day.
Yeah, I know, right? There are no right or wrong answers, of course, and it depends on the day.
As a mod, I snubbed the Beatles for a very long time. For that reason, because mods are not supposed to listen to the Beatles, but they're one of the greatest bands of all times.
Right.
But the other reason was they were my parents' band. Especially the early Beatles, but I remember they had Rebel Soul, they had Yellow Submarine, but so I didn't want to listen to my parents' music, so it was mostly Stones.
when we were talking scooters, so Vespa or Lambretta? You kinda
Lambretta.
answered this already, yeah.
Yeah.
Motown or Stax?
I have to go with Motown.
Ah,
I visited both places. They're for me, the mecca for a mod. You have to go pay your respects.
right.
I remember I brought my co-host to Addicted to the Needle, Ben, to Detroit for the first time. He knew so much stuff about Motown that we were driving in Detroit. He goes, "Oh, turn right, and then go straight. Motown's going to come up." He goes, "How? You've never been here?" He goes, "I know so much about Motown that I know the streets."
Right.
And as soon as we showed up, he went and licked the door of Studio A.
Wow.
So that's how much
That's commitment.
And we took the tour, and he knew more than the tour guide. So it was pretty funny.
All right.
But I love Stax. When I visited Stax, as soon as we walked out, my wife and I hopped into a taxi, and I gave an address to the taxi driver, and we went to see Booker T's house.
Oh, nice.
And we drive by. I wanted to take a picture. We stop, and there was this African American taking his groceries out of his car when we stopped. And he goes, "Can I help you?" I go, "This is Booker T's house, right? Right." He goes, "Yeah, you're a lucky man." And then we drove off. So yeah, I'm a fan of both, but I'd have to go with Motown.
Yeah. Gin or vodka?
Oh, Jed.
Yeah.
No doubt. Here.
Right. Yeah,
Here's
there's your
to you.
Vesper. That's it. Oasis or Blur?
I'd say Oasis, but last time I saw Oasis in concert was probably one of the worst concerts I ever saw.
Oh, that's disappointing.
They're great on record, but I can't stand, Noel and they're the two brothers fighting all the time.
I know.
They have shitty attitudes, and when I saw them, there was you could tell they didn't want to be there. You just could tell.
Oh, that's
so
that's sad.
But I like their music more, so I'd have to choose Oasis.
The Jam or the Style Council?
Interesting. The Jam, just because I grew up with them. That's what got me into the mod scene. But I think I have every album from the Style Council, so nothing wrong with them.
You were talking about you had sort of snubbed the Beatles because they weren't a proper mod band, early on. And one of the great regrets I have from when I was much younger and early in the mod scene, the mid 80s, people don't realize now, we forget that the Jam had only broken up 3 or 4 years before that. And here comes this new band, the Style Council. And my friends and I in California, we were not happy. We were mad at Paul Weller for breaking up the Jam because we loved them so much. And I remember to this day not going to see a show in Hollywood where the headliner, the main band, was REM, and opening for them was the Style Council. And I didn't go because I was like, the Style Council? I'm not going to go to this. No way. I'm a Jam fan. And I think about that now, about how young and dumb I was, and missed out on seeing the Style Council. I've seen Paul Weller a bunch of times solo now, of course. Well, as much as he gets to the States, or used to, sort of.
Yeah, he doesn't come to Canada, so I've never seen him live.
Wow. I've seen him many times now in Seattle. The first time was in the early 90s when his first solo album had just come out. And it's funny because he has changed as an entertainer, at least in my opinion, in my memory of these shows. He's become a kinder, gentler version of himself on stage. He has a better rapport with the audience now.
He's no Morrissey.
Yeah, and whereas the first time I saw him, he was he was a little snobby, and maybe it's because it was Seattle and a small club at the time, but we were sure excited to see him, But the last time I saw him here just a couple of years ago, and it was a fantastic show. He did some jam songs and Style Council songs, and someday you will have the chance, hopefully, again.
Well,
to go to a
I've
show
heard
with
that. I've heard he's afraid of flying. Is he? Is that why he doesn't come over?
I
Or
don't
I'm
know.
thinking of somebody else.
I don't know if it's that or just I think he didn't have a lot of early success, in the States so much, and maybe he's like, screw it, they didn't love me. Maybe it's not returning the favor, but he does now. I mean, he's this icon in the States as well as Europe and England, of course. But anyhow, my last question is the temps or the tops?
Just a side note on that. I never saw the Jam or Paul Weller, but I almost saw every band from the Two Tone label.
Really?
And aside from the Body Snatchers, the only band I hadn't seen live yet was Madness. I had tickets for them to go see them in New York.
Oh.
And then the pandemic hit. It was last March. So I was supposed to DJ that weekend in New York and go see Madness, and then the pandemic hit. So I saw every other band from aside from the Body Snatchers. I don't know if they ever came to North America anyway, but yeah.
That's painful, isn't it? But maybe someday everybody gets vaccinated. We can hope, right?
They're supposed to come back, and the tentative date is on a weekday. So I don't know if I can go to New York on a weekday. So I maybe I'll never get to see them. I don't know.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to do this and sharing your records and singles, and they're great tracks. And we'll have to do it again at some point.
I'd have to say the temps.
The temps and the tops, right? Okay. I almost forgot that was going to be my last closing question. The temps. Yeah, it's hard to argue.
Well, just because we played My Girl, that's why.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much, DJ Parka Pat. And
it flew by.
It did. It went pretty quick. And we will direct people to I'll put a link to Addicted to the Needle. I know you've done a lot of podcasts Addicted to the Needle.
We're going to record episode 61 very soon. And here's the fun part about the following shows, 9 shows coming up, is that we started on episode 60, and we do a DJ battle where Ben and I present a song from the year of the number of the podcast. So last episode we did from 1960. And we have people, vote on which song they like better.
Cool.
And we're racking our brains. If you thought finding 6 tracks for this show was hard, try to find one from one year.
Yeah.
But so we're probably going to go till 70 or 71. We're going to do a little DJ battle from the year of the episode.
Nice. Well, I'll look forward to that. Thanks again for being here, and people can find links to that, and as usual, a track list such as it is for this week's or this particular modcast, MrSuave.com. Don't forget to spell out the Mr. And thanks to DJ Parker Pat for being here.
As I sign off on my podcast, keep on keeping on.
I'm Mr. Suave. Thanks for listening.